Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we sit down here, we are looking outward. We're analyzing a historical event, breaking down a new piece of technology, or perhaps, looking at a specific figure in science or literature. But today we are doing something a little different. We are turning the camera around. We are looking at the lens itself.
It's a bit of an uncomfortable pivot, honestly. It forces a bit of introspection.
It really does, because today we are talking about celebrity culture. And I think the knee-jerk reaction when you hear that phrase celebrity culture is to think about.
Right. The famous people.
The actors, the musicians, the influencers, the people walking the red carpets. We think about the glitz, the scandals, the private jets. But digging into this stack of research, the articles, the sociology papers, the history, it hits you pretty hard that celebrity culture isn't actually about the celebrities.
No, that is the fundamental twist in all the literature we reviewed. It's a complete misnomer, in a way.
It's about us.
Entirely. If we stopped looking, the culture would cease to exist. It's a fascinating dynamic because it's a phantom structure.
A phantom structure, I like that.
It feels incredibly solid. I mean, it generates billions of dollars, it dictates elections, it changes how we dress, but it exists solely because of a collective, synchronized desire to watch other people live their lives.
So it's an atmosphere.
It is an atmosphere that we, the consumers, actively create. It's not a thing, it's a behavior.
That's a heavy start, and we are going to get into the psychology of why we do that. But before we get into the why, we need to ground this with a definition.
Sure.
Because culture is a word we throw around loosely. We talk about French culture, corporate culture, counterculture, but the sources provided a specific definition for celebrity culture that I found really helpful in distinguishing it from those others.
Right, and that distinction is key. Usually, when anthropologists or sociologists use the word culture, they are talking about a physically identifiable group of people. You know, a group that shares a language, a specific location, shared traditions, maybe a shared religion or a shared history. You can point to a map and say, here is where this culture lives.
But celebrities don't fit that box.
Not at all. Think about it practically. A linebacker for the NFL, a K-pop star in Seoul, a politician in Washington, and a reality TV star in, New Jersey.
Right.
They don't form a cohesive group. They don't all hang out in one village. They don't have a shared religion. They barely have shared values.
So a serious method actor in New York might have absolutely nothing in common with an influencer in Los Angeles.
Less than nothing, probably. They might actively dislike each other's entire way of life.
So if they don't share a location or values, how is it a culture? What holds it together?
The culture is defined entirely by the audience. It is defined by the willingness of regular people, you and me, to alter our own lives, to partake in the lives of famous people.
How so? What do you mean by alter our lives?
I mean, we change our schedules to watch them. We change our spending habits to mimic them. We change our conversations to discuss them. The cohesive element isn't the celebrity. It's the reaction to the celebrity.
So the culture is the reaction, not the source. That is a crucial distinction.
Precisely. The working definition we found in the source material is that celebrity culture is the high-volume exposure to celebrities' personal lives on a global scale.
High volume feels like the understatement of the century these days.
It does.
It feels like the volume knob broke off about 10 years ago, and it's just been stuck on max ever since.
Right. There is no off switch.
So our mission today is to figure out how this machine works. We want to tear apart the mechanics of it. How does this function as an industry? How does it drive consumer behavior? And how did we get from, reading gossip columns in the 1930s to having algorithmic feeds dictating our self-worth today?
And to understand the algorithm, you have to understand the gossip column. The DNA is remarkably similar. It's just faster now.
So let's go back, because it feels like celebrities have always been with us. I mean, fame isn't new. We've had famous kings and generals from millennia.
Sure.
But the research suggests this specific ecosystem, celebrity culture, with a capital C, has a start date. It wasn't always this way.
It does have a start date. I mean, yes, fame is ancient. We can touch on that later. The pharaohs, Alexander the Great, sure. But the system, the industrial complex of fame, that really begins in the United States in the late 19th century.
We're talking the Gilded Age.
Exactly, the late 1800s. And this distinction is crucial because it changes the why of fame.
Okay.
If you look at New York in, say, the 1870s, the concept of being well-known was very different. The people who were famous were philanthropists, politicians, generals.
Public figures.
Public figures who did things for the civic good. Fame was tied to achievement or contribution.
You were famous because you built a library, or you won a war, or you passed a law. The fame was secondary to the act.
Exactly. The fame was a byproduct of the work. It wasn't the goal. But fast forward just 20 years to the 1890s, and you see the emergence of the new elite. The nouveaux riches. The nouveaux riches. And the sources point out a fascinating shift here. They weren't necessarily seeking respect in the traditional sense. They were seeking publicity.
This is the birth of famous for being famous.
In a way, yes. This is the seed. They wanted to be in the society columns. By the 1890s, sociologists note that people were being celebrated specifically for their gossip value.
Gossip value. That's a term that needs a definition. What does that actually mean in this context?
It means your life is interesting to narrate. It's not about your moral standing or your professional output. It's about the drama, the aesthetics, the social maneuvering, who you're seen with, what you're wearing.
It's the shift from value to society to value as entertainment.
Yes, that's it. It's the realization that one's personal life could be a spectator sport.
And the technology was shifting at the same time, right?
Yeah.
You can't have a spectator sport without a way to broadcast it.
Correct. This is the other half of the equation. You hit the period between 1895 and 1920, which one film historian we read cites as the birth of the modern celebrity system.
The film era.
This is when the film industry kicks into gear. Suddenly, you have faces, human faces, that can be seen by millions of people simultaneously, up close.
That must have been psychologically jarring. I mean, think about it. Before that, you only saw people you knew, or maybe a painting of a king if you were lucky.
It was revolutionary. It created a pseudo-intimacy. You saw their eyes, their expressions, their emotions, huge on a screen. And the media infrastructure is just built up around it instantly.
Which brings us to the 30s and 40s.
Right. By the 1930s and 40s, this culture is cemented through figures like Walter Winchell.
Winchell, the name came up a lot in the notes. For those who don't know, paint the picture of who this guy was.
Walter Winchell was the gossip columnist. If you imagine a fast-talking newsman in a fedora from an old black and white movie, speaking in that staccato rhythm,
I can hear it now.
you were imagining Walter Winchell. He had that urgent voice. But he realized something profound about the American public. He realized that people didn't just want to know what movie a star was in.
That's boring.
That's trade news. It's an advertisement. They wanted to know who they were dating. They wanted to know what they were eating. They wanted to know who they were fighting with at the Stork Club.
He commodified the private life?
He did. He was the most celebrated gossip writer in America, and he proved that there was an insatiable market for the trivial. He proved that the public would consume information about the personal lives of strangers as if it were vital news.
It's interesting because we often look down on that impulse today, right? We call it trashy. We say, oh, I don't care about the Kardashians, or I don't read the tabloids. But there is a psychological reason we crave it. There is a quote in our reading from Lewis Lapham from his book, The Wish for Kings, that really stopped me in my tracks.
I know exactly the one. He's quite provocative. He doesn't pull any punches.
No, he does not. He wrote, "To people who have grown tired of self-government, the belief in kings and queens and fairy tales seems easier than the practice of politics."
It cuts deep. It frames celebrity culture not as a hobby, but as a retreat, as an escape.
It sounds like he's saying we are lazy.
I think he's saying we are exhausted.
Okay.
Lapham is suggesting that celebrity culture is a form of surrender. Think about what democracy asks of you. Citizenship is demanding.
It really is.
It requires you to pay attention to tax policy, to economics, to zoning laws. It requires compromise with people you disagree with. It's hard intellectual work.
But a monarchy, or, a celebrity dynasty.
A monarchy is a fairy tale. It's a soap opera. You don't have to do anything. You just watch. You admire the jewels. You critique the wedding dress. You pick a favorite character.
You can project your fantasies onto them.
It's passive. It's a comfort mechanism. It simplifies the world.
So, in a way, we treat celebrities like modern royalty, not because they deserve it, but because it comforts us. It simplifies the world into regular people and people on the pedestal.
It imposes a hierarchy.
A hierarchy that feels natural, even if it's completely artificial.
It orders the universe. And the sources point out that this isn't entirely new. The pharaohs of ancient Egypt used massive architectural devices, pyramids, statues, to ensure their fame lasted for centuries.
Right, they were branding themselves for the afterlife.
Exactly. Religious texts are full of well-known figures humans have always looked up, But the difference today is the scale and the machinery.
Right, the pharaoh didn't have a 24-hour cable news network analyzing what he had for breakfast.
Or an Instagram feed, tracking his every move. The globalization of media means that celebrity culture is no longer contained within a single village or nation. It's ubiquitous. You cannot escape it. It is the wallpaper of modern life.
Okay, let's talk about that machinery. Because one of the key takeaways for me was that you cannot separate celebrity culture from consumer culture.
No,
They aren't just cousins, they're conjoined twins.
they are the same organism. We have to stop looking at celebrity as art and start looking at it as an industry. The celebrity industry treats the celebrity as a product to be sold.
But it's a weird kind of product.
It's a recursive loop. It feeds itself.
Walk us through the loop. How does the money actually move?
Okay, step one. You, the consumer, buy a magazine or download an app to follow a celebrity. That's the first transaction. You are paying either with money or, more likely today, with your attention and data to watch.
Okay, I'm watching. I'm scrolling through my feed.
Step two. You see what the celebrity is wearing. You see what coffee they're drinking. You see what car they drive. You see the lifestyle.
And because I admire them, or I want to be like them, or I just think they look cool, I go buy that coffee or that handbag.
Right. So now consumers' choices are influenced by celebrity choices. But here is step three, which is the insidious part.
The trap.
The trap. By buying the products that the celebrity endorses, or even just the products that allow you to watch the celebrity, you are unknowingly perpetuating the culture. You are funding the machine that keeps them famous. You are paying for the pedestal.
So we are actively building the cage we are staring into.
Constantly. Every click is a brick in the wall. Every purchase is another bar on the cage.
And the celebrities know this. They aren't passive victims of this machine, at least not the successful ones.
Oh, not at all. They're operators. The concept of self-branding came up a lot in the notes.
Define that for us, because branding usually applies to toothpaste or sneakers. It feels strange to apply it to a human being.
Self-branding is the conscious effort to package your personality as a marketable asset. Celebrities are keenly aware that they can brand themselves to achieve financial gain that is totally separate from their actual talent.
So you might be a mediocre actor, but a genius brand.
Exactly. Or you might be a great actor, but your brand as a lifestyle guru or a fashion icon might make you more money than your movies do.
Yeah.
Look at this shift in the last 20 years. It used to be that an actor acted, and that was it. Now they have a tequila brand, a makeup line, a podcast, and a production company.
It's the difference between being an actor and being a mogul.
It's all about diversifying the brand portfolio.
And this is where the role of mass media becomes the critical engine. There's a theory by Oliver Dreissens mentioned in the research that traces celebrities' social prominence directly to the success of mass media technologies.
It makes perfect sense. The medium dictates the message, and it dictates the star. You can't have a radio star without radio. You can't have a TikTok star without a smartphone.
Let's trace that evolution, because it explains how we got to where we are now. We started with film visual, distant, larger than life, then came television.
Television was a massive shift because it brought people into our homes. That phrase is a cliche, but it's psychologically potent.
It is.
It created a sense of familiarity that didn't exist with silent films. You heard their voices in your living room. You saw them every week. They became like neighbors. The barrier of the screen got thinner.
But then came the 24/7 news cycle. And the source material argues this was the real turning point for manufactured celebrity.
That was the game changer. Think about the logistics of a 24-hour news network. CNN, Fox, MSNBC. You have to fill 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So much time.
There simply isn't enough hard news, enough wars, enough elections, enough natural disasters to fill that time responsibly.
So you have a void, a silence that needs to be filled.
A massive gaping void. So what fills the time?
Entertainment, gossip, speculation. What does this mean? Punditry.
Exactly. And this need for content led to manufactured celebrities. In the 1930s or 50s, stars were often self-made in the sense that they rose through a studio system based on a skill singing, dancing, acting. You had to be able to do something.
Right, there was a craft involved.
But with 247 coverage, the media needed bodies to fill the airtime. They needed faces to talk about. This paved the way for reality TV.
Which fostered a culture where fame is interchangeable. You don't need to be the best singer, you just need to be the most willing to live your life on camera.
And highly recognizable. Reality TV proved that you would take an ordinary person, put them in a pressure cooker environment, and create a celebrity product that is just as valuable to advertisers as a movie star.
Maybe even more valuable.
Maybe. Because they are cheaper to produce. You don't have to pay them $20 million a film.
This brings us right up to the present day, or at least the last decade, the digital shift. If TV brought celebrities into our living rooms, social media put them in our pockets.
In our beds, even.
And it changed the texture of fame completely.
It changed the texture because it changed the expectation of intimacy. Let's break down the platforms because, as you said, the medium dictates the culture. Each platform incentivizes a different behavior.
Okay, let's start with Twitter, or X as it's known now. The research points out that this platform increased the frequency of interaction.
Right. Before Twitter, if a fan wanted to communicate with a star, what did? They wrote a letter, they mailed it. Maybe 6 months later, they got a signed photo from a publicist.
So there was a huge buffer.
A huge buffer. Time and distance protected the celebrity. Twitter collapsed that buffer.
Completely.
It created an unmonitored, unfiltered space. Fans could tweet at a star, and the star could reply in seconds. This created an expectation of a public response.
It made the celebrity feel accessible.
They're just like me. They're tweeting about their lunch. But it also removed the mystery. And it created a minefield.
Oh, a huge minefield. Unfiltered opinions mean high risk. One bad tweet can destroy a career.
And then you have Instagram. This feels like the visual language of modern celebrity.
Instagram is visual first, which creates a different kind of intimacy. It's about sharing the behind the scenes. But we have to talk about the feed algorithm. The source material highlights this as a crucial driver.
This is technical but vital. The algorithm determines visibility. It decides what you see. So celebrities are forced to adapt their behavior, what they post, when they post, how they look, to satisfy the code.
Wait, say that again? They have to change their behavior for the code.
Yes. If the algorithm favors high-contrast photos, they post high-contrast photos. If it favors controversy, they post controversy. If it favors 10-second videos, they make 10-second videos.
So the algorithm is actually directing the culture. It's not just reflecting it. The machine is telling the human how to act to stay relevant.
It acts as a feedback loop. And the public mimics it. Fans start imitating the clothing, the poses, the speech patterns they see on the app. It leads to a homogenization of culture driven by code.
We all start looking the same because we are all optimizing for the same algorithm.
Pretty much. And we can't forget Facebook. It's still a major player, especially for older demographics. It lets people share posts that are important to them, which often includes celebrity news or activism.
Right. It's a different kind of sharing ecosystem. But YouTube, this is where the idea of relatability really gets weaponized, and I use that word carefully.
It's the rise of the influencer or the YouTuber. Think about the aesthetic, the vlog style, talking directly to the camera, often in a bedroom, often without professional lighting. The camera's handheld, maybe a bit shaky.
It feels raw. It feels honest. It feels like you're on FaceTime with them.
That's the trick. The source material contrasts this with movie stars. Movie stars are distant. They are lit by professionals, scripted by professionals. They feel untouchable.
But YouTubers look like your friends.
And that creates a strong bond with the viewer. It feels reciprocal, even though it isn't. You feel like you know them personally.
The Justin Bieber example was interesting here. He was discovered on YouTube.
Yes. And that origin story matters immensely because he wasn't manufactured by a studio initially. He was a kid with a guitar on the internet.
He felt authentic.
It elicited emotional ties and a sense of ownership from fans, particularly his early female fans. They felt like they discovered him. They felt like they made him.
So it's not just that you're a fan of his music. You're a fan of him, the project you helped build.
And that creates a much more intense, sometimes obsessive loyalty compared to a star who is just handed to you by Hollywood.
This leads us to a term that I hadn't heard before reading the stack. Micro-celebrity. It sounds like an insult like, you're famous, but only a little bit.
It does, but it's actually a technical term.
Okay.
It was coined by Teresa Sentef back in 2008 in her book Cam Girls. It has two meanings, and the second one is the one that really matters for us.
Okay, what's the first meaning?
First, it simply means being well known to a niche group. You can be a celebrity in the knitting community or the competitive gaming community, even if the rest of the world has no idea who you are.
Which is more common now than ever because the internet allows for endless niches. You can be the most famous person in the world to 10,000 people.
Exactly. But the second meaning is more interesting. It refers to a technique. It's a self-representation technique where ordinary people present themselves as public personas.
Wait, break that down. Ordinary people acting like public personas.
Yes. Even if you only have 500 followers on Instagram, mostly your friends and family, if you are curating your life for them, if you are viewing them as an audience or fans, if you are using hashtags to grow your reach,
You are practicing micro-celebrity.
you are. You are managing your brand.
Wow. So when I carefully choose the filter for my vacation photo because I want my friends to think I'm having the time of my life, I'm engaging in celebrity culture.
You are. That is the celebrification of everyday life. The media plays a key role, but we have internalized the logic of the celebrity industry. We brand ourselves. We manage our public image. You worry about our ratings, which we call likes.
That is slightly depressing.
It explains the anxiety, doesn't it? It explains why so many people feel this constant pressure.
It does. It's not just about living your life, it's about performing it.
Exactly. And that performance requires an audience. Which brings us to the psychology of the fan. Why do we watch? Why do we gossip?
Yeah, I wanted to push back on the idea that gossip is just trashy. I think that's a lazy dismissal. The expert analysis in our sources suggests it actually serves a real social function.
It does. Anthropologists and sociologists have argued for a long time that gossip is an integral part of social order. It's a form of communication. It allows for civic engagement.
How is talking about a movie star's divorce civic engagement?
Think about it. When we talk about a celebrity scandal, say a messy divorce or a drug problem or a tax evasion charge, we aren't just talking about them.
We are talking about us. We're talking about our values.
We are affirming our own values. When we say, can you believe he did that? We're actually saying we agree that doing that is bad. We are calibrating our moral compasses against the behavior of a public figure.
It helps us reinforce social norms without having to get personal.
Right. It creates community. It creates social involvement. It's a safe way to discuss difficult topics. Infidelity, addiction, wealth, parenting, without having to talk about our own messy lives or the lives of our neighbors, which might be too confrontational.
It's safer to judge a Kardashian than to judge your sister-in-law.
Infinitely safer. So the celebrity becomes a proxy. We use them to work through our own societal issues.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But while the fans are getting social connection out of it, the celebrities themselves seem to be getting the short end of the stick.
They often are.
We have this data regarding celebrity disillusionment, the dark side.
The dark side is very real. There is a general correlation between success and unhappiness that isn't limited to Hollywood. One study noted that CEOs are depressed at more than double the rate of the general public.
Which is counterintuitive. We are taught that money and power equal happiness. If you have the jet, you should be smiling.
But the research suggests we focus on objective success. Wealth, status, reputation, those are things you can measure. But happiness comes from subjective success, relationships, self-worth, moral introspection.
And celebrity culture.
Celebrity culture maxes out the objective metrics, but often destroys the subjective ones. It isolates you. It puts you in a bubble.
And the paparazzi play a huge role in that destruction.
It's the paparazzi problem. It leads to objectification. Fans develop what's called celebrity worship syndrome, where the empathy for the human being evaporates. They're no longer a person, they're an object, a thing to be consumed.
And for the celebrity, the loss of anonymity is traumatic. The sources describe celebrities having to split into two identities.
The public image and the private self.
Mm.
And you have to constantly police the border between the two.
That sounds exhausting, to never really be yourself because the self is a product.
And it's worse for child stars. The research on this is pretty clear and pretty grim. It suggests poor emotional health and higher rates of drug abuse in adulthood for those who get famous young.
Why is that?
They never get the chance to form a private self before the public one is imposed on them. Their identity is hijacked before it's even fully formed.
And there's a hierarchy to it, too. The stress of the A-list versus B-list culture.
Oh, absolutely. The stress of fighting to stay on the A-list versus slipping to the B-list, or God forbid, the C-list. It creates a state of constant anxiety. You're always one flop away from irrelevance.
There was that example of Bart Spring in It Felt. He was the first winner of Big Brother.
Yes, the reality TV pioneer. He was there at the very beginning of the craze. He got what everyone thought they wanted.
And what happened?
He came to loathe the reality TV culture he helped instigate. He achieved the fame, saw the machine from the inside, and regretted it. It's a common story. The prize isn't what you think it is.
It's not just entertainment, though. This culture has bled heavily into politics. And I don't think you can talk about the modern world without talking about the intersection of celebrity and governance.
They have merged significantly, and it goes both ways. You have celebrities becoming politicians and politicians becoming celebrities.
The line is blurry.
If it exists at all anymore.
So let's look at the first category, celebrities becoming politicians. We've seen this at the highest levels.
Ronald Reagan is the classic example. A career actor, 53 films. He was a creature of the studio system. He knew how to hit a mark. He knew how to deliver a line. He understood lighting.
He understood performance.
And he transferred that name recognition and screen presence into the governorship of California and then the presidency. He understood that leadership is, in part, a performance.
And more recently, Donald Trump.
Right. A businessman, yes.
Yeah.
But primarily a brand licensor and a reality TV star. The Apprentice gave him a national platform where he played the role of the decisive boss for over a decade.
So people felt like they knew him.
They knew the character, yes. And the source material notes his use of controversy to maintain media attention, like with the birtherism thing, is a direct application of celebrity logic to political campaigning. He understood the news cycle better than the career politicians did.
And then you have the other lane, politicians becoming celebrities.
This is where the squad comes in. AOC, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib. The source notes they formed via an Instagram post.
An Instagram post.
They use the colloquial term squad goals. They understood the visual language of social media. They are masters of the clapback. They speak the language of the internet.
And Justin Trudeau in Canada.
Yes, his celebrity status is derived from being perceived as personable and progressive. He has a fan base in a way that traditional politicians often don't. He appears in selfies. He wears fun socks. It's a branding exercise.
Why is this happening? Is it just vanity? Or is it a necessity in the modern landscape?
I think it's strategy. One observer in the materials, Jane Johnson, noted that celebrity gossip is a nationally unifying factor.
What does that mean?
It bridges social groups. People from all walks of life will talk about a royal wedding or a big movie premiere. So if you want to reach young voters who statistically vote less, you have to go where their attention is.
To the culture they're already consuming.
Right. So politicians mimic celebrity personas to tap into that cultural resource.
So being boring is a political liability now.
In a media-saturated environment, yes. If you can't hold attention, you can't win votes. Policy is boring. Personality is exciting.
We also see celebrities using their platform for activism, Jane Fonda getting arrested for climate change protests.
Katy Perry campaigning for Hillary Clinton, Dave Chappelle endorsing Andrew Yang. It's become expected almost.
But there is a tension there. The famous quote attributed to Michael Jordan, Republicans buy sneakers too.
Right. The conflict between commerce and politics.
It's a fundamental tension.
If you are a brand, taking a political stance alienates half your market. So there's a constant calculation. How much of my brand capital can I spend on this issue before I hurt the bottom line? It's cynical, but it's the reality of the industry.
Okay, now I want to move to something a bit darker. We've talked about fame, but we also need to talk about infamy. Because it feels like the modern machine doesn't distinguish between famous for doing good and famous for being bad. Attention is just attention.
That is a major complaint about modern culture. Infamy has replaced merit. Society rewards those who are willing to break ethical boundaries or be aggressive self-promoters. If you can create a spectacle, you get the microphone.
It's the bad publicity is better than no publicity rule taken to its extreme.
Chuck Palahniuk, the author of Fight Club, has a theory about this that is quite disturbing but compelling.
What is it?
He argues that we create celebrities as godlike figures, specifically to destroy them.
Wow.
We need the drama. We need the spectacle of the takedown. We get a thrill from their downfall.
So we build the pedestal just so you can watch them fall off.
Tabloids are the prototype of this.
Yeah.
They build you up, they find the flaw, and then they tear you apart. It's a sacrificial ritual. We sacrifice the celebrity to make ourselves feel better about our own limitations. We want to see that they are human, flawed, and broken, just like us.
And sometimes the fame only comes after you're gone. The section on posthumous fame was really interesting.
It's the ultimate irony. You struggle in obscurity your whole life, and then you die, and suddenly you're an icon.
Van Gogh is the cliche.
He's the poster child. Sold one painting in his life, now priceless. But it happens constantly, especially with musicians. Nick Drake, Jeff Buckley, Robert Johnson. These are people whose genius was only recognized when they weren't around to enjoy it. Their story became more compelling once it had a tragic ending. The art gets reevaluated through the lens of tragedy.
And then you have Alfred Nobel. His story is unique. It's not like the others.
It is not. He established the Nobel Prizes specifically to fix his legacy before he was even dead.
Why did it need fixing? I thought he was just an inventor.
Because of a mistake. His brother died, but a newspaper thought it was Alfred who had passed away. So they printed an obituary for him.
He read his own obituary.
He read his own obituary, and the headline was, "The Merchant of Death is Dead."
Oh, wow.
Because he had invented dynamite and made a fortune from war. He saw that headline and was horrified. He realized, this is how I'm going to be remembered, as a merchant of death.
So the prizes were a PR move.
The greatest PR move of all time. He used his massive fortune to create the prizes for peace, science, and literature. He effectively rebranded himself posthumously while he was still alive. He bought a new legacy.
That is incredible. Talk about controlling the narrative.
And then you have a modern version, like the Bob Ross effect.
Bob Ross, the painter on public television, the guy with the afro and the happy little trees.
Right. He was known in his time, but he wasn't a global superstar. Now, years after his death, he is an internet deity. He's a meme, a brand, a symbol.
A symbol of what?
Of something we lost. Calm. Gentleness. The internet culture adopted him because he represented peace in a world of chaos.
It makes you wonder if some people crave that legacy more than life itself.
Well, there are examples of people staging their deaths. The sources mention the prankster Alan Abel and the comedian Pauly Shore. The desire to know, will I be missed? Or will I be famous? Can drive extreme behavior.
This brings us to the final historical figure I want to discuss. Someone I had never heard of, but who seems to be the patron saint of modern internet trolls and fame seekers.
Herostratus.
Herostratus. Ancient Greece, 356 BC. This story, it just sums up everything we've talked about. It's chilling how relevant it is.
Who was he? He was nobody. He wasn't a king. He wasn't a general. He was a young man who wanted to be immortal. He wanted his name to live forever.
But he had no talent.
No talent for building anything. So what did he do? He burned down the Temple of Artemis.
One of the 7 wonders of the ancient world.
One of the most beautiful buildings on earth. He destroyed something beautiful and sacred solely to get his name in the history books.
And what happened to him?
The authorities at the time realized what he was doing. They understood his motive. They executed him, but they also passed a law damnatio memoria forbidding anyone from ever speaking his name. They wanted to erase him from history.
But here we are, 2,000 years later, saying his name on a deep dive.
Exactly. He won. The law failed. His act of destruction granted him the immortality he craved.
And that is the haunting question that celebrity culture leaves us with.
It is.
If fame is the ultimate currency of our culture, are we incentivizing people to build things like Alfred Nobel, or are we incentivizing Herostratus to burn them down?
And as the audience, which spectacle are we more likely to click on? The building or the fire?
The data suggests we click on the fire.
Every time.
That is a heavy thought to end on. Celebrity culture is a mirror. It reflects our consumer habits, our political engagement, and our psychological needs for connection and drama.
It's a machine we all participate in.
Whether by clicking a link, buying a sneaker, or voting for a personality.
We are the fuel. Doesn't run without us.
Thank you for listening to this deep dive. We hope it changes the way you scroll through your feed tomorrow morning.
Indeed. Question why you're watching and what you're rewarding with your attention.
See you next time.